Welcome to the Glitch Mom podcast. I am your host, Monica Vanderpool, and I am finally sitting here with the Anna Sothen. Finally, we our schedules have just been crossing, and
I think it's when you threatened our friendship that I was finally.
I did. Because I'll just tell you, you canceled twice.
Yes.
Not canceled, rescheduled. So the last one, she was like, hey, I actually have 2 other podcasts that I have to do this morning. Can we move to Monday? And I was like, yes, but if you cancel, I'm going to start questioning our friendship. So anyway, we're finally here. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So Anna Sothen she's a public, well, first she's a mom and she's a wife.
I am.
She's a mom of 2.
Yes.
She was born in Italy.
I was, yep.
And came over. How old were you when you came over?
I was 13 when I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody's like, oh, where's your accent? I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't start speaking English until I was 6, I think my mom told me. And I didn't learn that until I was 18.
Really?
Yeah, because you go fill out this college application
Yeah.
and say, what was your first language? And I was like, English. And my mom was like, yeah, no. And I was like, what do you mean no? She's like, oh no, you didn't start speaking English until you were 6.
So do you remember?
No, I don't remember only speaking Italian. My dad's American, my mom's Italian, and they didn't speak each other's languages, but I always understood my dad. But whenever he would ask me something, I would just respond in Italian because we lived in Italy. So for me, it was, and we didn't live on base.
So you understood English, but you spoke in Italian.
Yeah.
God, that is so interesting.
It is.
How the mind does that.
I know. And then no accent. But if you talk to my mom, she has an accent. She says turd instead of third. And it's Netflix, not Netflix.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So you can tell.
So how did they meet?
So it was actually a chance meeting. My mom's best friend growing up, whose name was also Maria, was married to a guy on my dad's ship. And they had invited my mom, who was 24 and never dated, because my grandfather was very strict, over to the house because they wanted to introduce them to this guy. Well, the guy who was supposed to go ended up canceling literally at the last minute. And my dad happens to be walking in front of Gary, and Gary says, hey, Jesse, are you doing anything tonight? And my dad was like, no, this is how my dad truly is. No, I don't have anything going on. Why? And he's like, well, my wife is bringing over her best friend. Why don't you come over and meet her? We're going to do a double date. And my dad was like, okay. So they go, and in Italy, well, in Naples specifically, there's no homes, there's all apartments. And so my mom was standing on like the 11th or 12th floor on the balcony as my dad walks up, and he looks up and he goes, and that's the woman I'm going to marry. So that's their story. And then
love at first sight.
Yeah. Maria, who introduced them, actually proposed to my mother because my dad didn't know how to say it in Italian. So she's the one who proposed. They got married, I think, 3 months later. And the night of it, so they got married in the courthouse.
And wait, so how did they even communicate if she spoke Italian?
I mean, when you're in love, I guess you just figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you just figure it out.
If you think about it, that could be a good thing.
It could be. Probably. It probably was a good thing. So they got married at the courthouse so that my dad could start claiming that he was married, right? Because they got more for the military monthly if they were married. But the night that they got married at the courthouse, my mom was back home by 9 p.m.
She had a curfew.
She did.
Yeah.
So they weren't married until she got married in the Italian church.
Gotcha.
So then and I think that was a couple months later. So that's when she actually had her wedding night.
I love that story. And they moved here, obviously. Well, after you. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have a younger sister. She's 2.5 years younger than I am, and then my brother's 3.5 years younger than I am.
Okay.
They both live in Portsmouth and Virginia Beach, respectively. So we moved here. I was 13. Rowena was 9.5, 10 and a half. I can't do math. And then Nafeta was 9.5.
Yeah. Same again, Anna.
Anna, Rowena, and Raffaele.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that accent.
Yes. And then my sister's name is in English is Rowena.
Rowena.
Yes. Like the cakes, or I think there's a cake company called Rowena.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Anna
is
she's first a mom and a wife.
Yes.
And she also publishes two magazines here in Virginia, Swift Creek Living and Powhatan Living.
Yes.
So she's a publisher. but she is also RV connected.
I am.
So Anna, and a lot of people around here know Anna. She has this gift of just connecting with people and connecting people with people.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is super cool.
Yeah. I was at a networking event again last week, and this gentleman introduced me to another gentleman, and he said, you know, you really ought to get to know Anna, because if you need to be connected to anybody, she's really good at that. He's like, she's really good at connecting, like started doing with this with his hands. And I was like, oh, that's really, can we not do the hand thing?
Yeah,
it is.
And so who coined human Rolodex?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. But you say it now, and like, you know, kids, my son doesn't know what a Rolodex is. I don't even know that my daughter knows what a Rolodex is. So
But I
figure
mean, most adults think.
most do, right? But it's just, I want to be the person that when somebody says I need, that the first person they think of is, let me call Anna, because Anna's gonna have, she knows somebody. And if I don't know somebody, I know somebody who knows somebody.
Right.
I'll give you an example. So I had somebody who I talked to about being a sponsor in the magazine. He ended up not doing it, but so we had talked that Monday, and then that Friday at like 6 p.m. he messaged me and he said, hey, I know that you know a lot of people, and this was when I first started out. So he said, do you know a videographer? And 30 minutes later, I had a videographer that was going to be at his location on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So that's what I love to do. Yeah. That's like my paycheck of the heart.
Yeah, it's always good to know somebody.
It is. Yes. What is it with the saying? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Right. But Mike King has actually coined it even better. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's really not who you know, it's who knows you. Yeah. I think that's even, I like that. That's even stronger. Yeah. Right.
So we're going to talk about radical responsibility today. And you actually kind of coined it. Yep. You heard it somewhere.
I did hear it somewhere.
And it was catchy, and it spoke to your spirit.
Yes.
And you're very passionate about this.
I am very passionate about it. Yes.
So let's talk about the scenario that kind of birthed this radical responsibility.
Okay. So it was we'll say 12 years ago, because it was before I had my son, and Jack is now 11. And at the time, my husband was living up here, and we did that for about 7 years. So I lived in Virginia Beach. He lived up here, and he would travel back and forth on the weekends to come home. And so I was a single mom, and I would tell people I'm a single mom, and they're like, what happened to you and Adam? I'm like, no, we're good. It's just, he's not here to physically help me. So I'm a single mom during the week. And I used to say I'm a single mom. I'm a military mom without actually being in the military. And so at that time, and my husband knows this, or he knows it now. I actually had a conversation with him a couple months back, and he was like, wasn't aware that that's how you were feeling at the time. Because I wasn't very good at expressing how I was feeling. I am much better at it now. Yeah. We weren't in a great place, right? And so when he moved, when he took this job up here, in my mind, I said, well, this is either going to work out. It's either going to make us stronger because we miss each other, or it's going to break us.
It's the end of the road.
It's the end of the road. And either way, no matter what happened, I was okay with it, which is sort of terrifying.
Does he know that? Does he know?
Yeah. He knows that now. He didn't know that at the time. Yeah. But I had resolved myself that no matter how it worked, however, God, universe, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, let it work out. I was going to be okay with that, because I was going to be okay. Like I was going to be able to move forward from it. And so being a single mom, I was constantly tired. I was constantly running late. That's one of my biggest pet peeves now, is being late to anything. So I always show up like 15 minutes early, which is why I was early here today, because I didn't want to be late. Yeah. And so I disliked my job immensely. I always felt like my boss hated me, like they never wanted to promote me, and all of these things. So I was playing the victim in my life, and I was a star. I was good. I was really good at it. Yeah. And so the scenario is a morning that I was rushing because I had overslept, and then I had to get my daughter to school before I went to work. And so we're driving down the road.
A chaotic morning.
It was a chaotic, like most mornings, like every single day of my life. Yeah. Mornings, afternoons, it didn't matter. My life was in chaos. And so we're driving down Rosemont Road, and it's a 4-lane road. There is a lane to turn left, and then there's 3 lanes to go straight or forward, as my brother and sister would say. And so I am in the far left lane to go forward. And then there's a car behind me, and there's 2 cars next to me, and then there's cars behind them, right?
Mhm.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning on
Mhm.
Rosemont Road. It's super busy going
Mhm.
towards the interstate. And so the lane to turn left gets left green arrow. That car starts to go. The car behind me notices the green, just sees green, doesn't realize it's not green, not just left and straight, it's
Mhm.
just the left. And so he hits the gas pedal and he slams into, I say slams, he didn't really slam, he
Mhm.
hit the back of my car.
Right.
I get out of the car and the fact that I wasn't on the 6 o'clock news that night is very impressive. Because I was angry.
Were you speaking Italian?
I did. I don't know if I did, but I
can
cursed.
imagine you getting out like,
Yeah.
you know.
I curse a lot, and I do know that I cursed at him. My daughter was in the car, so I'm like, you could have hurt my daughter. Like,
Right.
this is not.
And then those
okay.
mama instincts come
Oh
out.
yeah,
like,
absolutely. Like, I wanted to deck the guy.
Yeah.
And really, like, I mean, the damage on my car was so minimal. Like,
Yeah.
it just, you could tell that somebody had hit me, but it's no different than somebody hitting you in a parking lot. Like, it wasn't, my back bumper wasn't on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
it was a fender bender.
It was a fender bender.
Mhm.
But I was livid. I was angry because in my head it was, oh my gosh, what if it had been worse?
Yeah.
What if you'd hurt my daughter? What if you'd
Mhm.
hurt me? What if whatever?
Mhm.
I was playing victim.
Yeah.
And so I tell people that scenario. And I especially love it when I tell the scenario and there's like insurance agents in the rooms.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'll say, whose fault was that? And everybody's like, the guy who hit you.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't paying attention. He
Mhm.
wasn't, he was on his phone or whatever. He was just lost in la la land.
Mhm.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, no, it was my fault. And they're like, excuse me, is the mic on? Yeah,
Yeah.
not your fault.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it was my fault. And they're like, how? What?
And honestly, I'm still having a hard time
A
processing
lot of
that
people do.
because I'm like, I don't know.
It takes me applying it to every scenario that happens in my life
Mhm.
for me to really ingrain it into every cell of my being.
Mhm.
And so the reason I say that it is my fault is because I had so many other choices that I could have made that morning
Mhm.
that I chose not to make. For example, I could have left sooner.
Mhm.
I could have gotten up on time and gotten
Mhm.
dressed and left the house and not been in a rush. I could have left later.
Mhm.
I could have not gone into work at all. My daughter could have been sick. I could have stayed home.
Yeah.
I could have been sick. I could have stayed home. I could have been in the second to last or third to last lane that was closest to the left turn lane. I could have been in a different vehicle. I could have been the car behind the car
Mhm.
that was at the front.
Mhm.
There's so many different scenarios. I could have taken a different road.
Yeah.
Like getting to the interstate to 64 off of Rosemont, you could go down Lindhaven.
Mhm.
There's so many different ways that I could have done things differently in that moment
Mhm.
that would have caused a different outcome. And because of where I was in the space in my life, I needed to be in that moment right then. I needed the wake up call of, hey, your life is in chaos
Right.
and you're allowing it to be in chaos. And so this was God's.
And you were probably in robot mode.
Oh, for sure.
Because I feel like when life is in chaos like that, you kind of get into robot mode and you just go to the motion.
You just do. Right. I wasn't living life. I was an observant.
So it's like
of
God
my
was trying to
life.
get your attention.
Mhm. And that's what happens. It's just, think of like when our kids were little, right?
Mhm.
If they're trying to get our attention, say, mommy, mommy, mommy,
Yeah.
mommy, right?
Right.
And so that's
Smack, mommy.
exactly, exact same scenario.
Mhm.
And so I tell people all the time, that was my responsibility. There's the change in the wording, right? So when I tell people that's my fault, that's where people get triggered. It's not
Yeah.
your fault. So we're
That's
not
good.
talking about fault here. We're talking about responsibility
Responsibility.
and responsibility over your life,
Mhm.
my life, not your life, my
Yeah.
life. You taking responsibility for your life. Because truly, in the end, nobody else will. We can allow other people to dictate our mood. We can allow other people to dictate whether or not we're going to be happy.
Mhm.
We can allow other people to dictate whether or not we are going to be jerks to
Yeah.
others. But instead, if you choose to stand in your power and
Mhm.
stop being a victim of your life, literally everything in your life will change.
Mhm.
Everything.
Yeah. No, you're right. I say that I'll never allow anyone, because I did this, especially in my marriage, allow anyone to steal my joy.
Yes,
You know, like, I'm not going to give you that power.
Yeah.
I'm going to wake up this morning and I'm deciding to have a good day.
absolutely.
Something good's going to happen to me
Absolutely.
today.
Something always good happens.
Yeah,
Or
just
something
like
good always happens.
when you got here this morning, I got a text message.
Yeah.
And I saw a few words and I'm like, nope.
Yep.
I'm not reading that one because
Right.
it's not gonna steal my joy today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I did that a lot. Like I was a victim at work. I was a victim in my marriage. I was a victim with my daughter. I
Yeah.
was a victim with all of my friendships. Every single thing in my life was, oh, woe is me.
What's happening
Look,
to me?
right. What's
Mhm.
happening to me? Everything happens for me. Everything
Mhm.
happens. I don't like the saying everything happens for a reason, but I do like the saying everything happens for a purpose.
Right. Oh
Right.
yeah. I like
Because at
that.
the end of the day,
Mhm.
there's a purpose. And as I shared with you earlier, if I can take any situation or any scenario and be like, what did I learn?
Mhm.
What will I never do going forward? What will I
Mhm.
implement going forward? Then nothing in my life is a failure.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I will always learn to grow or seek to grow from every
Mhm.
situation that happens in my life.
We're gonna learn from it. We're gonna grow from it.
Absolutely.
Just like
Absolutely.
we talked about, a grape goes through
Yeah,
a process before it becomes wine.
absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Or even a flower. A
Yeah.
flower has to go through dirt before it blooms.
Yeah. There's so many different scenarios. Like if you take that, that flower or that seed and you plant it in the ground and the soil isn't fertile,
Mhm.
it won't grow.
Mhm.
If it's clay, it's not going to grow. If it doesn't get watered, it's not going to grow. If it doesn't
Mhm.
get sunshine, the right amount of sunshine,
Mhm.
it could start to, it could start to bloom, and then somebody comes over and mows over it with a lawnmower. There's
Mhm.
so many different things that can happen. And those situations, we're talking about a seed right now, but like when we talk about the soil and the water and the air, those are all things that are happening in your life
Mhm.
that will dictate where you will go moving forward.
Mhm.
Right. So
And how you react to situations.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you need to tend to the soil. You need to make sure that the soil where you are planted
Right.
is fertile. You need to make sure that you get the right amount of water.
Right.
You need to make sure that you get the right amount of suns, whatever that looks like for
Yes.
you.
I love that. I'm getting chills right now. Because that's why I feel like it's so important to take care of yourself.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
Self-care is not selfish care.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's why, part of this podcast is bringing beauty professionals on here to, let's talk about Botox and let's talk about facials and let's talk about what we're eating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just taking care of yourself, loving yourself, because then you can be a better mom, a better wife, a better friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's tending to that soil.
It is. Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So if you think about if all we eat is junk,
Mm-hmm.
that's literally what's going to come out is junk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So if that's what you put in, you can't process it and then come out with, an organic cucumber,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're putting McDonald's in every
Yeah.
single day.
Yeah.
So I love that analogy. I love it. And I used to think that self-care was selfish, right? Because I was taking time away from my children. I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. I could have spent that money on something else for them. But
I used to feel guilty if I was going to go get a facial.
Yeah.
Or going to get my nails done. And especially if I was getting my nails done during the week, because that single mom, not even single mom life, but just the mom life, you do a lot of things on the weekends. You got sports, you got, a lot of times I want to spend that time with my kids.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, the only time I have time to go get my nails done is during the week.
Right.
And I used to feel guilty for that.
Yeah.
Used to.
Yes.
Not anymore.
So what changed?
Growth, maturity.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm not going to apologize.
Nope.
I'm not going to apologize and I know how important it is.
Yeah.
Just learning how important self-care is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So back to this episode 12 years ago. So what happened after that day? Did you have that aha moment that day, or did it take a while for it to set?
My goodness, if you would love to think that once something happens that you just sort of learn from it and then everything becomes copacetic and it changes, and it can happen. Like everything can change, on a dime. And I used to think that, for something to change, it had to happen. That's something that's going to happen next week, next Monday, or next month, or next year, or next whatever, the next decade. Things can literally change if you choose for them to change right then and right there. if you have the awareness for it.
Mhm.
And I still didn't have the awareness. That was just literally the car crash that brought me to the awareness, to like the door of the awareness. I still had to
Mhm.
open it and walk through, right?
Yeah.
And so it's taken me a really long time. And I didn't come up with the term radical responsibility until I started going through a mentorship program. And so working on myself, my spirituality, my self-care, and learning about who I am
Mhm.
and who I am meant to be, that's when it's really started to take off. So it's probably been, gosh, I started that mentorship program during COVID. So it's been 3 or 4 years. That
So it
really
took several years for you
a
to
lot
like,
of years,
Mhm.
a lot of years, and a lot of things to happen for me to. And when the things would happen, when the situations would happen, it would be like something coming up in front of my face, and I'd be like, "Oh, I sort of recognize that. Why do I recognize that?" And then
Mhm.
off to the side it goes, and then it would happen again, and I'm like, "Why is that? Why is that familiar?" So it was
Yeah.
the feeling.
So that seed was basically planted
Correct.
12 years ago, and it's being nurtured right now.
Yes,
So
and now I think it's finally my awareness is super heightened,
yeah.
which I appreciate because it doesn't take me, when things used to happen, I would wallow
Mhm.
again back into that victim mode for months,
Mhm.
weeks, sometimes even years. I
Yeah.
would wallow in something, and it would always be that thing in the back of my mind that would dictate how I was feeling about certain situation, right?
Mhm.
And so when something else would happen, I would be like, ooh, see, there's another example of why I'm the victim.
Yeah.
There's another example of why I'm the victim. So it's taken quite some time, but now that my awareness is heightened,
Mhm.
I can recognize things.
And it's probably easier for you to get out of that
It
victim.
is.
You
It
probably
is.
catch yourself and you're like, shit,
Correct.
okay, I need to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it still takes, depending on the situation, some are a lot easier than others. Like if I go and I'm driving down the, I don't know why I keep using driving examples, but I'm driving down the road and somebody is, lays on their horn because I'm not going fast enough and then whips around me.
Mhm.
I used to get angry and say all sorts of curse words in Italian.
Yeah.
Because then, and then flip them off in Italian because then
Yeah.
nobody knows, right?
Uh-huh.
But now I'm just like, oh, okay, well, something's going on in that person's life that they felt the need to be in front of me,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I just send them love and grace. Where before,
Mhm.
look at what that jerk to me. And then I would go into work and I'd be mad because and so the next phone
You were
call that I
sending
took.
birds.
Right, exactly. So it's now I'm able to, but that's what I like to call inconsequential situations.
Mhm.
I'll never see that person again in my life, so they don't need to affect my life.
Yeah.
But if it were like something like you and I got
Mhm.
into something, that would take me a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Why? Because I care about you. And I
Mhm.
want you to be in my space, and I
Mhm.
want us to be friends.
Mhm.
And so if something like that happens with a friend, it's a little bit more, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's a little bit more work to work through.
Yeah.
But I will take radical responsibility, even when somebody else does something to me.
Mhm.
I'll take radical responsibility for what they do. And I will think, okay, so whatever Monica just did triggered me.
Mhm.
You're just a mirror.
Yeah.
So what you said or what you did is already something that I believe. So that is something for me to work on. So I look at it as an opportunity for me to do better and to uncover those layers. We talk about trauma, we talk about past lives and stuff like that, that we can uncover that and just release it and let it go.
Right.
And so when that happens, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Man, if more people could have that mentality,
Yeah, it would be, the world would be
how this
different.
world would be
Oh,
different.
it would be
You know what I
very
mean?
different. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they used to say, you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with, right? And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. So I want to spend time with people who think like me, who act like me. And I'm like, nope, I don't. I don't want people who think the same way that I do and act the same way that I do. Because what happens then is that I feel like I get siloed.
Yeah.
And then I can't see somebody else's perspective. I always want to be able to see somebody else's perspective. I may not agree.
And be around people that challenge you.
Absolutely.
And that grow you.
Absolutely. So if I do something and I'm like, hey, this is what I think, or this is what I think I should do. And I want you to come to me and say, I see where you're coming from, but have you thought about this? And then I can be like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that. And maybe it'll change how I handle a certain situation.
Mhm.
But we get so caught up in in the chaos, right? It's like being in the center of a storm and the storm is happening around you. You
Mhm.
can't see outside of that.
Right.
And so somebody who has a different perspective, who's on the outside, who
Right.
doesn't really care about what the outcome is,
Mhm.
it's a good perspective to have. Again, it doesn't mean that at the end of the day, I have to agree with you,
Yeah.
but I can at least see your perspective. And maybe it'll change maybe one small iota of how I present myself or how I conduct myself in the future. I'm grateful for that. So I don't want people who act and think like me. I want people who challenge me
Right.
on a daily basis.
And what you were saying about the, the tornado going on around you, I'll use my divorce as an example, is that there was a lot, I mean, it wasn't 13 years of, it wasn't all chaos, there was obviously a lot of beauty in our marriage, but going through it, I didn't realize that I was kind of changing. I was changing. And that's why, I told my story of why I'm calling this glitch is that, I had these blinders on while I was going through this tornado. And now that I'm out of it and I look back, I was like, oh, fuck, Monica.
Yeah.
How did you even allow yourself to get
Because you
to
didn't
that
see
point?
it.
I didn't.
You
I did
didn't
not see it.
Yeah.
But I can never say that I regret going through it because there's just like that wreck that you were in. There's a reason that you go through it.
Absolutely.
And we can't, there's no regrets. You cannot look back and say, I regret this marriage.
Right.
I had to change my language of, one of my children, it wasn't a planned pregnancy. But I never say, oh, that was an accident.
Right.
No, there was a reason for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you hadn't been married, you wouldn't have your child.
Yeah.
So imagine that. Imagine your life without them in it, right? So everything, have you ever read The Magic? It's the same Rhonda Byrne who wrote The Secret, but in The Magic, so she went through a divorce. And so she shifted her words towards her husband, her ex-husband, her thought process towards him. And so she sends him love. And she's like, thank you so much for taking care of us and the family. Thank you for providing this. Thank you for, if I had never married you, I wouldn't have my children.
Oh, I'm not there yet.
And it takes time. It takes, remember,
I'm
12 years,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But once you come to that, the beauty is that you've severed the tie.
Yeah.
So any, I'll use power for lack of a better word, any power that person has over you completely extinguishes.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing they can do or say. And energetically, he may not know it consciously, but energetically, eventually he's going to realize it and realize that he can't touch you anymore.
Yeah.
And so he's going to stop doing the things because you aren't giving him the response that he's looking for, right? We cannot manage other people's expectations.
And sometimes that pisses people off.
Oh, it'll make them angry.
Especially if you're working with, if you're dealing with a narcissist.
Oh yeah.
If they know that they can't affect you like that, it pisses them off.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually they'll get over it because they'll find another outlet.
Right.
Whatever that outlet
They'll lose
is.
interest.
They'll lose interest, right?
interest,
Whether it be, another person or whatever. But eventually I'm assuming it's what it would feel like when you're taking drugs, right? Like if you take the drugs and eventually the drugs stop working, then you're going to find something else that's going to give you that same high, that same physical and chemical reaction in the body. So if you stop being the drug for him, he's going to go find something else.
Right.
But it does take time. Let me rephrase that because words matter. It can take time. It can be your choice right here, right now, today, if you truly believe it, that you're gonna, what's the snuff out his power? What's like cinch it off or cut it off or whatever.
Chop it off.
Chop it off. Now I know the images that are going through your head.
No, I'm kidding.
But no, so yeah, so you can make that choice. So back to what I said earlier, like I would think that in order for us to make changes, that it would have to be tomorrow or next week or next month or next year or whatever. What if you decided right here and right now that he wasn't going to affect you anymore?
Now I will say he does not affect me anymore. I've learned this really cool technique
Okay.
that someone taught me a few months ago called gray rocking.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
I hadn't either. But so what it is, I'm probably not gonna do a very good job explaining it. It's called gray rocking, and it's where you show no emotion
Okay.
when there's communication
Okay.
between you and somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying not to make it too personal, but obviously I think everyone knows who I'm talking about. But where you show no interest,
Okay.
when there's interaction, whether it's text message or even phone calls or talking in person, keep it very factual. You don't bring up the past.
Okay.
You don't bring up, you don't put your 2 cents in, basically, but you just keep it very factual.
Okay.
And if the conversation starts turning, then you just you gray rock. You act like a gray rock. And what
Oh,
happens that eventually they start losing interest.
yeah.
But there's a fine line. And then another word or another technique that I learned was yellow rocking.
Oh, okay.
Just
A lot of rocks, people.
yeah, a lot of rocks. Gray rock, yellow rock. Because what can happen, especially if you're dealing with a extreme narcissist,
Mhm.
is that the gray rocking can backfire on you
Okay.
if they get really
Really
angry.
angry. Yeah.
Depending on what type of person you're dealing with. So then this yellow rocking is where you kind of soften it a little bit.
Okay.
Like let me try to think of an example. Say the person that you're dealing with is really good at name a sport, basketball. We'll use basketball. It's really good at basketball.
Okay.
And you have a child together, and you want them to practice with them.
Okay.
Instead of saying something like, look, you're not spending a lot of time with your kid. You need to take him. Why don't you take him somewhere and practice basketball? Because you really need to give him. You need to help parent, basically.
Yeah.
That would be you putting your emotion into it.
Right.
Instead, you would say something like, you're really good at basketball, and you are really good at influencing our child and teaching him these basketball techniques. Don't you think it would be a great idea if you took, our child to the court and maybe spent about 30 minutes and teach him some of your techniques?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I like that. Okay.
So you're making them feel like, yeah, I am good at basketball.
Right.
And I want to teach my son some things.
Yeah.
So
you're elevating them as well too.
Right.
Right.
And kind of I see it as like you're almost kind of blowing smoke a little bit, but you're just softening it.
Right.
That's called yellow rocking.
Okay. Would it be blowing smoke though if it's actually true? If they are good at basketball?
I guess not. I guess it depends on your level of bitterness towards
Right.
that person. I am not at the yellow rocking stage yet.
Okay.
I'm still at gray rocking because for my health and my well-being, that's what I have to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I refuse to allow him to change my mood for the day.
Right.
And I like the period of time that I'm in right now, I need to keep it business. It's about our child, and sometimes we do have to talk about and deal with things that are related to the companies. But if I just keep it black and white about either our child or the companies, I'm at gray rocking stage right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like those. I like those terms.
Yeah. I don't even know how we got on the subject. But here we are.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how conversations, they just ebb and flow.
Right.
So, because we talked about what if you could change it right now?
Yeah.
If you could decide today
Yes.
that it's,
right.
you can change.
All right. So let's get back to radical responsibility.
Yes.
How now in your life,
Mm-hmm.
how have things changed?
Oh, so many things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Is
not.
your life still in chaos?
No.
Okay.
No. And when my life does start to feel a little, I don't want to say it off. I don't like the word balance. I like alignment a lot better.
Yeah.
So when my life is not in alignment, I go outside and clean my car.
Okay.
Because I know that my car is right now it's a little bit of a mess. And so that's driving me. And so that's one of the things that I can affect immediately that will affect my mood, and then, other things.
Do you feel like this mentality that you have now, and thinking about radical responsibility has helped get your life out of chaos?
1000%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would still be where I was 12 years ago had
Mhm.
I not made that realization and not grown into it.
Mhm.
And had people along the way who helped me, realize that. So does my life always stay in alignment every single day, every single second of every single day? No,
Mhm.
because life happens, right?
Yeah.
What's the saying now? Life be lifing.
Mhm.
But I am better able to correct it. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't taken those steps. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be the person that I am. I wouldn't be the friend that I am.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have created the business that I have if I hadn't changed,
Yeah.
if I hadn't chosen to take radical responsibility.
And
for my
obviously,
life.
the separation did not break you
It
and your
did not.
husband.
No, it made us even stronger.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, and we've been together. So this summer, we will have been together 24 years and married 23 years. So there's still some days where, and I tell him this all the time, that I can't believe it's already been 23 years. It feels like it's gone by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And there's other days where I'm like, I fucking can't stand you right now. Like you, but those days where I can't stand him, it's because he is either reflecting or saying out loud how I'm already feeling internally. He's a good trigger for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
for me because he knows me so well.
Yeah.
But it's definitely gotten better. I've gotten better at communicating with him what it is that I want.
Yeah.
Because get this, people aren't psychic.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
aren't mind readers.
Yeah.
And so I would always feel bad because people didn't know that I wanted them to do X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
They're not psychic, they're not
Mhm.
mind readers. Why would I expect them to know if I don't say, I need this from you?
Mhm.
And so I have gotten a lot better at saying those things to him.
Yeah.
He's not a talker. Like
Mhm.
anybody who knows me, I'm very extroverted.
Mhm.
I will say what I need to say now. But he's not a talker. So sometimes that will frustrate me because I'm like, just talk to me. Like I'm your wife. I mean, he talks about things,
Mhm.
but when it comes to like the deep core soulful stuff,
Mhm.
he has a hard time with that.
Mhm.
But he hasn't gone through what I've gone through, and everybody's on their own journey. He also has a very different mentality than I do. I have a very abundant mentality. He has a very scarce mentality. So for him, if he doesn't continue to do the job that he's doing, tomorrow we're going to be out on the street. We're going to lose everything. We're going to lose our house, our cars. The kids won't be able to go to college. Like everything's going to be gone. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
no, that's for me. The more money I put out, the more money comes back to me. So that sometimes, so there's still some conversations that he and I have, that I'm grateful for because they help me become even more solid in my resolve in what I believe in. So yeah, it's things between him and I are really good. And I'm really grateful because he is, a lot of people are like, oh, my husband will never help or my husband doesn't do this. He did the laundry this weekend.
Oh.
Because I'm out doing other things.
Yeah.
I go to yoga, he does laundry. Like
I need your training program.
I don't know. I don't have a training program. But so he helps take care. Like
You're a
it's
good team. That's good.
It's a very good team. And I used to believe that marriage is 50-50. That's bullshit. Marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is 100% from each participant at all times. Until like when I got sick a couple of weekends ago, he picked up my slack. Who is it? Mel Robbins talks about that, or Brene Brown. Brene Brown talks about it. Marriage isn't 50-50. It's each person like right now
sometimes it might be 80-20.
Sometimes it might be 80-20. I'm picking up the 20% slack that he can't give because he physically, emotionally, spiritually can't give it at the time. So it just really depends. And it's being open and honest with your partner to be able to say, I need you to chip in.
Yeah.
Or for you to recognize it. That's the hard part for me. He's really good at recognizing when I need him to pick up the slack, and he does it without my asking. I, on the other hand, am not very good at recognizing it. So I need him to tell me, but he's not very good at telling me. So the only way I know is when he starts to get pissy and irritated with me. And then I'm like, dude, what's going on? And he's like, well, I need you to do these things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just say that. And he's like, I shouldn't have to say it.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, I do it like, you don't have to ask me to do things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to ask me to put Jack's snacks together. I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Where on the other hand, he has to ask me, did you do Jack's snacks? Right. So, but again,
Which that surprises me because like you're literally taking responsibility. Like
Mhm.
I can definitely see that in your life,
Yeah,
but you have a hard time communicating
I do.
with your husband.
I do. Yeah.
We need to unpack that.
Yeah. That's,
You know what I'm saying?
yes, it is. It's very interesting. But I think part of it is because he's my safe haven.
Yeah.
He's my, I don't have to
Trust.
be
Mhm.
100% on all the time because
Yeah.
I know that he knows me and he will carry me when I need him to carry me.
Yeah.
So, and that's not a good thing. Like, I'm not saying that that's something to boast about. That's something that, like you said, needs to be unpacked. And I recognize it. When I take responsibility for that, I do recognize that there's a lot more that I can contribute to our relationship and be better at that.
Mhm.
Whether it be asking him, hey, do you need my help?
Mhm.
Let me do this for you, right?
Yeah.
But it's because he's my safe haven. He's my, I won't say it doesn't matter what happens, he's always going to be there,
Mhm.
right? Because you never know. Never say never. Because
Yeah.
as soon as you say never, there you go, never and never and again, or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
I'll never say never, but he's the one that I know that I can give less to, and he'll still be there.
Yeah.
Where
Oh, that's really
everybody
sweet.
else, like my children, my job, my friendships, my business, I don't feel like, and not that I even want to, I don't feel like I can be less than 100%
Mhm.
with them.
Yeah.
So he is my safe haven where I can come home and just sit on the couch and not do anything and know that he's gonna do the dishes and he's gonna take care of the snacks. Because I even after he's worked a 12-hour day or a 13-hour day. Yeah. So
That's really sweet.
I'm very
That's very
grateful for
sweet.
him. It is. It's very, very sweet. And I'm very grateful for him. And I tell him that all the time. I think I can do a
I
better
hope
job.
he watches this.
I would send it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he'll be like, wait, what?
You just got brownie points. You just got brownie points. You might get some tonight, girl.
Yeah,
You're
right.
welcome.
So yeah, it's super interesting. But I mean, anybody who knows me knows that those two, I've thought about tattooing them on my arm, like getting radical responsibility tattoo.
I love the phrase radical responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it like as you're talking, I'm just seeing and when you go through your day, just take responsibility.
Yeah. Well, it's even more than just responsibility, right? Because we take responsibility for things all the time. Well, most people do. Some people don't, right?
And also, let me clarify, and also understand that when things happen for you, it's for a purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't get pissed at it.
No.
Don't start speaking Italian and
Right.
yelling
Yes.
at it.
Right.
But appreciate it and like grow from it and learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And be thankful for it.
Absolutely. You can always find gratitude in every situation. I posted that, like, so every morning I'll do like a motivational post, right? And one of my motivational posts this morning, or a couple weeks back rather, was I will find happiness in every moment of every single day. And there was somebody who was triggered by that. And they're like, really? Like, you're going to get into a car accident and you're going to find happiness in that? Yeah, absolutely. I will find something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
I'll be grateful for the car that kept me safe.
Right.
And then I didn't get injured. I'll be grateful that there was nobody else in the car with me.
Yeah.
I'll be grateful that the person behind me didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, you can be grateful for those things even when there was a situation that you could be really pissed about.
And our Bible says that too, is we should be thankful and grateful.
Yes.
So that I feel like aligns with how we're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
You know.
So I'll give you another little concept that a lot of people have a challenging time with. So I grew up Catholic, right? So and I went to a Catholic school. I have never read the Bible through and through. Like, I'll just be honest about that. But I am a spiritual person. I believe in God. I believe in the universe. I believe in spirit. I believe in source. I believe all of those things are one and the same. So I have, and tell people this all the time. So I have a cross but I also have my stone, right? So this is my Catholic, if you will, and this is my spiritual. But I think it's all one and the same. So like when I believe that source or God, or again, apply whatever word you want to use, whatever you feel comfortable with, is working through us, is having an experiential experience through us. So God came here through me to experience my life the way that I'm experiencing it. Same thing for you. Same thing for my husband, my daughter, my son, my friends. Everything is energy. Everything around us is energy. So we all come from that one source, from that one thing. And if you start to think about life that way, how could you ever hate if you know that I come from the same source that you do? So at the beginning, we were one and the same in the same space, and then we branched off so that you could experience life as Monica and I could experience life as Anna. How could I ever hate you?
I know. That's my whole the let them theory.
Yes.
Just let them be who they're going to be.
Absolutely.
Because that's who God wants them to be.
Right.
Just like let me be who I'm going to be. Because
Absolutely.
I'm still, we're all growing, but I'm navigating through who God wants me to be.
Absolutely.
Do you do morning affirmations?
I do.
Okay.
So my mantra that I love to say is I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am blessed. So first thing in the morning, as soon as not even my eyeballs open, because that takes a long time for my eyeballs to open, but as soon as I become conscious, I start repeating that in my head. I am happy, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am blessed.
I also add to mine that I have everything and I am equipped with what I need.
Absolutely.
To do what I need to do today.
Everything that you need to accomplish any given goal that has ever been set on your heart, it's already in you. You don't have to go out and seek it. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have mentors, that you shouldn't grow, that you shouldn't learn, that you shouldn't read books, do those things. But there's nothing outside of you that you need. You just need to be reminded of the things that are inside of you. So
just like the wine. Everything that the wine needs is in that grape.
Absolutely.
It just has to go through a little process to get to the wine. Yeah.
So I tell people all the time that whatever has been placed on your heart for you to do, when you wake up and you have a inkling or intuition or a hit, if you will, if you say, I want to do this, you already have it. Like all that needs to happen then is for you to allow the universe to bring the people and the circumstances into your space for you to be open to receiving it, right? So I've never woken up and will never wake up and be like, ooh, I'm going to be a brain surgeon today. Yeah. I'm going to go over to Bonnie Shatore's and cut open somebody's head. That is never going to happen. Yeah. But if I woke up and I'm like, I want to be a brain surgeon. Yes, will I have to go back to school? Absolutely. Will I be capable of going back to school and doing that? Absolutely. Because it's something that I have chosen to do. But you have to make that choice and you have to realize that everything you need is already inside of you and be willing and ready to receive it, because that's the other part that people can get tripped up on. I want $1 million. Okay. But if you keep saying, I don't have $1 million. Oh, look at that person who has that car. Look at that person who has that house. Look at that person who took that vacation. You're literally telling the $1 million, hey, stay away. I don't actually really want you. Yeah. And I also feel like that we have to be prepared to receive that. 1000%. And that might not happen tomorrow. It might happen 15 years down the road, but God's not going to give it to you until he knows that you're ready to receive it and that you're going to do what he wants you to do. And not just money. I'm talking about with anything. Yeah. Well, just imagine like eating all of the most delicious food on the planet right here, right now, in this very second. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to do it. And why would you? Yeah. You'll make yourself sick, right? So you want to be able to experience those things, but it's always being in the state of allowing, the state of receiving. And so you and taking radical responsibility for what is happening. Yep. For you, because it's always for a greater purpose, right? It always happens for a purpose, not for a reason. It always happens for a purpose. So when things happen that you think are not in accordance or in line with where you want to go, there's a reason why it's happening. So take a look at that, and and reflect on it, take radical responsibility. Is it something that you did? Is it something that you said? Is it how you're feeling? Because really at the end of the day, it's how you feel about everything. Again, if you feel like crap on a daily basis, that's what you're putting out into the world. If you feel joy, if the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is, I'm going to feel joy today. I'm going to find happiness in everything that happens to me. Imagine.
And when you have that mentality, like it takes the stress off of everything.
It does.
You know?
It does. Yeah. Takes the wind out of the sails.
Yeah, it really does.
Right. Of the storm could be happening.
I love this.
So I could literally, like, when people post, what can you talk about? If I said, hey, talk about something for 30 minutes, what would it be about?
Radical responsibility.
This would be it.
So how can people connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me on Facebook. So on a Sothen or RVA Connected is my business platform.
And you have a podcast.
So I do have a podcast called RVA Connected. And that's where I interview business owners who are in the Richmond area who are looking to grow and expand their business. So I want to connect with anybody who has just started a business, has been in business for a while. I want to create the sense of, I am creating the sense of words matter. Yeah. I am creating the sense of community where people can just reach out to one another and be like, and realize that we're not going through this alone. My experience is my experience, but you could possibly learn from something that I've done or something that I accomplished. And so I want to be able to create those connections between business owners where they can reach out to one another and support one another. I
love that. It's nice that we have someone like that in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that works great with the publication.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It all just flows.
It just all, yeah. So I was able to create this brand and have these sort of different silos of or extensions of the brand of just, I want to help businesses grow and grow their brand in the communities that they're serving and create a sense of community. I just want people to be like, oh my gosh, I love where I live. Yeah. And look who I know and look who, who I'm connected to. And all of the publication, the radio show, the podcast, all of that gives me a voice and a platform to be able to do that and to be able to help you put your name out there more and more.
You can definitely tell that you have settled into your purpose. Yes. And you're right where you need to be.
Yeah. So, even my mom said that. My mom said that to me. It's been about a year now. But she called me up. I got nominated for the Chesterfield Chamber for like member of the year and new small business of the year and then new member of the year. Okay. And so I sent out the link for her to vote or whatever. And she called me up and she goes, what is this? And so I explained it to her and she's like, oh, you finally made it. You finally figured it out. Yeah. And I was like, and the way that she said it was sort of like, and she's an Italian mom. So, but it was sort of like a dig, like you didn't know what you were doing before, but now you finally, and when she first said it, I was like, whoa, rude. Yeah. But really, if I were to think about it,
it's really a compliment.
It was a compliment. And again, she just voiced what I already thought in my head. Like before this, I had tried so many different things that I liked, but I wasn't passionate about. I really, truly have found what I am damn good at. Yeah. And you are. That makes me super. And I don't say that. I'm not saying that to like boast and be like a braggart about it, but I am really good at it. Yeah. I talk about people staying in their zone of genius. This is my zone of genius. Writing is not my zone of genius. Publishing a podcast is not my zone of genius. That's why I hire really good people to do those things, and it contributes to their abundance. But I really
which you actually connected me to.
I did.
So yeah,
I do that right. Yeah, my husband's like, now you need to start making money off of connecting people. I'm like,
right.
I'm like, well, no. So because again, at the end of the day, God's going to provide for me. Like, so me connecting you
reap what we sow.
Absolutely. It's going to come, and it's not going to be from you, and it's not going to be from the person that I connected to you. It's going to be to somebody completely random who is, oh my gosh, look at what Anna did. And then I want to be connected to her because of X, Y, and Z. So we may never see the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, if you will, that happen in our life, but I am a firm believer that they do happen. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen time and time again.
You know what would be so cool is if you could contact the gentleman that hit you 12 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And tell him thank you.
Just so he would, because I wonder how he's feeling right now. Like, not that he's even thinking about that. Yeah. But did he feel bad? How did his day end?
Right.
But,
yeah,
but
that would
to
be-
know that he had such an effect on you,
yeah,
and not just you, but like it has trickled
Mhm.
to everyone that has been in contact with you. What
my
good?
entire world.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's awesome.
That would be nice to be able to go back and tell him thank you.
Yeah,
Because I do have immense gratitude for him because
Right.
he was the light switch
yeah.
that needed to happen.
So radical responsibility.
Yep,
And so then
yep,
your you have a website,
I do. Yep,
right?
www.annasothen.com.
Anasothen.com.
Yep, and it's ANNA. I know it's pronounced Anna, like Princess Anna from Frozen.
Mhm.
But it's spelled like Anna, if you
Yeah.
will. And then my
ANNA.
last name is SOTHEN
Okay.
dot
Perfect.
com.
And we'll probably put a link.
Yep,
Down in
absolutely.
the
So if you want to
comments,
connect with me, if you want to build your brand in anywhere in RVA, we have
Mhm.
16 different publications I can put you into. It's not about where I want you to be, it's where you need to be in front of your ideal clients. If you want to be on my podcast, I'd love to have you. Monica
Mhm.
has been on the radio show and is
Mhm.
going to be on my podcast as well too.
Mhm.
And then if you ever want to be on the radio as well too, I would love to have you. And that's on 106.1 ESPN Richmond.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with sports, people, because I do not understand sports.
Yeah.
Never have, never will. I just care to, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm very blessed to know you.
No, thank you. I
And
feel the
thank you.
same.
Thank you for coming today. Finally, we get
Absolutely.
to connect.
Yes.
So,
Thank you for having me.
all right. Thank you.